Welcome to the Toastmasters Experience. My name is Evelyn. Get inspired by today's Toastmasters Insights. Enjoy the show. And welcome to another episode of the Toastmasters Experience. I'm excited and delighted to have Richard Peck with me all the way from the United States. Welcome, Richard.
Good morning, Evelyn.
Yes, and good evening to you. I'm in Australia, and Richard is it's Connecticut. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Now, we're going to start at the beginning. We're going to dive straight into your story. What motivated you to join Toastmasters? How long have you been a member? And what clubs are you currently in?
Sure. That's a great way to start off to find out about somebody in their Toastmasters journey. I actually knew nothing about Toastmasters like many people when they first start their journey, but was at a How to Become a Millionaire seminar and met a speaker there by the name of Les Brown. And Les had asked me if I had ever thought about getting into public speaking. And just the title public speaking scared me. And I told him no, that I wasn't interested in any way, shape, or form. But he gave me his card. And a few weeks later, I just decided I would give him a call to follow up and see, what he would recommend. And the first words out of his mouth were to join a Toastmasters club. And of course, Les was a Golden Gavel recipient at one point in time. So I found a Toastmasters club nearby and joined right at the first meeting and have been a member ever since. So that was in 2006. So I've just celebrated my 19th year in Toastmasters. I currently belong to 3 clubs as members: Nutmeg Toastmasters in Connecticut, Park City Toastmasters in Connecticut, which are both in-person clubs, New England Advanced Toastmasters, which is an online club, and then I'm an honorary member of World Travelers Advanced Toastmasters Club, which is located in Singapore. And so the club in Singapore meets once a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
My advanced club in Connecticut meets once a month. My other 2 clubs meet every week.
Wow, every single week. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're a busy Toastmaster.
Well, it's a skill, and the only way you can develop your skill is to keep practicing.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Now, I know that, of course, you have gone the leadership route in Toastmasters. Can you just tell me a little bit about your first time that you were ever an executive member? So you joined in 2006.
Yep. Yeah, so executive member of a club, we might as well start out there. So I always tell people this is a funny story. Never leave the room during officer elections.
Okay.
Because when you come back in, you've been elected to something, whether you were going to do it or not. And within the first 6 months of my joining Toastmasters, I was club president, which was quite unexpected.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call was the district governor at the time. They're the district directors now. Mm-hmm. A few months later, asking me if I would be willing to be an area director. Mm-hmm. And 2 questions concerned me there. Was one, how did the district governor even know who I was? I'd been keeping a low profile, I thought. Mm-hmm. And what was an area director at the point? Uh-huh. And we agreed to meet up, and I took on the role and found out that it was very exciting to be able to help others, to guide them to where they wanted to go or where they could go and didn't think they could go. And that really started me on the leadership journey and took me all the way to where I went.
Just to put this in context, you were a member for the very first time, and within the first 6 months, you were actually elected as president because you left the room. Oh my gosh!
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And Evelyn, you'd be surprised if you talk to a lot of Toastmasters. Not a lot. That's a generalization. If you talk to a number of them, some of them will tell you they've had the same experience where all of a sudden they were elected into a position they didn't know they were running for.
There you go. And you accepted it. So I'm glad you accepted it because it actually led to other things for you.
Yeah.
So Was that in your mind though when you joined Toastmasters that
Oh
you
no,
okay. So
no,
why do you think you joined to become a better
uh,
speaker or
yeah, I think that's exactly why I joined, was to become a better speaker. Yeah,
uh-huh.
it's interesting because we all know how to speak, right? And I
Mm,
don't know that it's necessarily that we're trying to become a better speaker, but more that we're trying to become a better communicator.
yeah.
And there is a difference between speaking and communicating, and being able to make the connection. I was
Mm,
essentially a tech person at the time, and we can speak to other tech people, but we just can't communicate across the boundaries. So, being able to find new ways to communicate and understand what that actually means, how you align your body with the words you're saying, how your facial expressions can really change what the story sounds like or how people interpret it. So it becomes more of communication, and that was really all I was looking to do, was find new ways to communicate with people.
and yeah, to communicate well. Now, I did watch a little video of you and you were talking about competing, but you can't really
Mm.
compete when you're in these sort of executive roles, can you?
No, no, you can't. And that's something that is a nice thing to do because it allows you to focus on the things that you have to.
Mm,
But when you're someone who likes to compete and you can't,
mm,
it's really hard sometimes because you're out there going, I have a story and I know I can deliver this and I know I can have it in a contest, but I just can't do it.
yeah.
So it's been a long time, but I'm working on one right now. So hopefully I'll be competing this year.
Fantastic. Will this be one of your first times like competing?
No, I competed. I competed when I was at the club level, club president, and that was probably within the first year I was in Toastmasters. I made it to district level in a tall tales contest, but that was as far as I got.
Have you been in a leadership role then pretty much since you've started?
Let's see, if I count it backwards, which is what I have to do in order to remember where things started,
Uh-huh.
I took on district leadership in 2009. So I'll use today's terms, club growth director in 2009,
Hmm.
program quality in 2010, district director 2011, 12, and then 2013, I ran for the board of directors.
Okay.
So I've only had 3 years essentially that I wasn't in some type of upper level leadership within the organization.
Okay. And are you still a board member for Toastmasters?
No,
Okay.
those terms are limited.
Hmm.
So you serve as an international director for 2 years.
Hmm.
And then if you decide to run as an officer, you have the essentially 5 year terms of an officer. So you have your second vice president, first vice president, international president-elect, international president, and then immediate past international president. Where my story is a little bit different was during my term as immediate past international president, our president resigned, and the
Mm.
board brought me back in to fill that term.
Okay.
And then I served another year as essentially another year as immediate past international president. So it's kind of a strange journey for me on that side of it.
Yeah, it also is strange because when you became president of Toastmasters, this was in during the height of COVID. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And
yeah, it was the height of the pandemic.
at height of the pandemic, were you? I probably would have thought I didn't sign up for this because
Hmm.
it was such a I guess what's the word? I mean, nobody knew what was going on. So, but there was something that I did see on a YouTube video, and I love that you said that, is that you didn't see it as a challenge at all, that you saw it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yes. And it was an odd time because I tell individuals and future leaders that you can read leadership handbooks all day long, but there's going to be times that things aren't going to be prepared for. And there was no leadership handbook on how to lead during a pandemic. I haven't seen one yet. been asked to write one. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it became an opportunity to find new ways to connect with people. Because all of a sudden, an organization that is used to being in person, you know, building that energy, the high fives, the handshakes, all those things, had to cease in that manner. There were no more welcome mats. They were stay away mats. But we couldn't lose sight of who we were as an organization and still needed to be connected some way. Now, fortunately, Zoom came into the picture really quickly for us, and we stumbled a little bit at the beginning finding the ways to use it, as I'm sure you did during your early days. How do you get things connected properly and all that? But out of that, where I realized the opportunity was I now had the opportunity to connect with people around the world in a way that had never been done before. So we set up what I called the International President's World Tour, where the goal was to visit one club in every country we had representation. And it was 143 countries at the time. And not just to show up at the club, but to show up at the club and take on a role, whether it was give a speech or take on a functionary role. And I let the club dictate what that was going to be. We started on I think it was November 6th of 2020 and concluded around June or July of 2021,
Wow.
visiting 149 countries. Let's put it this way. We made 149 visits. We visited 143 countries, but some of the countries had clubs that had asked for another visit, so we had time and we obliged it. But that was something that had never been done before and will likely never be tried again.
Wow. I mean, when you say we, was it you and I guess another person, a part of the board, or?
It was me doing the visits, but I had a great team at World Headquarters who would help with the coordination.
Right.
So they would go through and they would find the clubs that were located in those countries. We had some criteria that we were looking for those clubs. And then they would send out the email to say, hey, your club's been selected for the world tour. Are you interested? Because we weren't going to force ourselves on it. We wanted them to be interested in it.
Right.
And, they would respond yes or no when their clubs met the times that it was going to be and what role they wanted me to take on. And then we would send them a virtual background, which had a ribbon saying, they were part of the International President's World Tour, because we couldn't give them physical ribbons at the time. And, then it was up to me to be there. And there were calls at all times of night and day. I think I spoke in Madagascar. It was like 2:00 in the morning for my time. And then I had another one at 7:00 in the morning. It was a coordinated effort. I couldn't have done it without the staff.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. I mean, because we fortunately, for District 70 that I'm in, we actually had Roddy Spear visit us, and it was so exciting. So yeah. I can imagine, I'm like, goodness, 149 visits, 143 countries, in that short time span. I mean, that's like, I'm counting that's like 6 months or almost 7 months.
Yeah.
And so how many meetings would that have been in a month? Sorry, my maths isn't very good here.
Yeah.
But
there were some months where it was many more than I expected it to be. But you're figuring close to some months were 20 or 25.
Yeah.
And some were a little bit less. But it was a great opportunity for me because I'm a big proponent of cultural awareness and understanding. And, these are individuals, some of them were actually letting you into their home when they may never have invited you to their home in the first place. Yeah. But you really got a chance to know people, see people, and how they were just outside of a club meeting. It was fascinating for me.
I bet it would have been a fascinating insight into others' lives because Zoom is kind of
Mm.
like that, isn't it? Because we're literally in each other's
Mm.
faces,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I absolutely love that. Now I'm curious though, what sort of roles did they want you to do? Did they want you to speak?
I would say 80% of them were pathway of speeches.
Wow,
And
wow.
it was quite interesting to get evaluations from other countries. And I strongly recommend to members, if you have the opportunity to speak at a club in another country, virtually, obviously,
Yeah,
unless you're
yeah, yeah,
traveling, if you're
yeah,
traveling, doing it in person,
yeah,
because the question is always, are we connecting our message on a global level? And getting an evaluation from a member in another country allows you to see whether the message comes across the same, whether the words come across the same, whether your actions come across the same.
yeah.
So it's really a great way to become rounded as a speaker.
I mean, I would love to. I don't know if you can remember. Was there any sort of speech that you delivered, and it was such an interesting, like a over the top evaluation?
I had some that were no, it's an interesting question to ask because no one is ever disrespectful
Yeah.
when they're given an evaluation, and I don't think anyone was ever there to, hey, you're the international president, you should be doing better than this type situation.
Yeah.
Uh, but the feedback was very appropriate in the fact that maybe I wasn't enunciating properly or I was tending to speak too fast. So, because they were sometimes trying to translate into their native tongue,
Mm,
that speaking too fast didn't allow them to do that.
right.
So, realizing that sometimes you have to slow your pace,
Yes.
enunciate a little better. Especially for those like me on the East Coast, we tend to speak a little bit quicker and
Mm.
try to get things out of the way. But it became a very, very important learning experience.
Yeah, that it would be because when you are in a club where you just speak English and then we because we are an international organization, but the main language is English, but then we don't realize how hard it is for others who this is their second language. So
Mm.
we do have to make sure that we are understood. Yeah. So, yeah, that is, I never even thought about that going to an international club for that reason. I know that people now, they're probably finding out if they're in, the semifinals. And I've heard that from, maybe it was Verity Price who said that because I interviewed her as well. But she said she was so lucky because she was able to give speeches around the world on
Mm.
Zoom, and it was really good to get that feedback from other countries because she didn't realize that
Yeah.
realize the impact. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Can you answer for me? Has there been something about Toastmasters that has totally surprised you?
Now that's a question I haven't heard before. I think that the truly, truly supportive nature of the organization is a surprise
Yeah.
because, everyone is there with their own goal, but everyone is there supporting one another. And you mentioned earlier competition. Even when we're competing against one another, we're still providing proper feedback and clapping and cheering people on, even though we want to win. I mean,
Right.
that's obvious. We want to win.
Yeah.
But hey, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Uh-huh.
And we always give that. And regardless of where you go within the organization, that same level of support exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that is surprising is how different the club environments can be. So the clubs all follow the same format in speaking evaluations, table topics, but the way the club meeting is held in some areas is totally, totally different. I was in Singapore a number of years ago, and their meeting was 3 hours long. because they have a meal with their meeting and they
Mm.
have, the fellowship, the networking, but then they go through the meeting. So it can be quite different. Some clubs have a inspirational section. Some clubs have a prayer that they start their meeting with. So
Mm.
although all the clubs follow the same format, they all have their own culture, which
Yeah.
is also surprising.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I think it's important when someone is considering joining Toastmasters to go to many different clubs because, the first club might not be the one for them, but there's so many others that you could actually join. So you were talking about communication earlier. What do you think it mean? What does it mean to you now, and what do you see happening on a scale right now with the world, the way the world communicates now? How do you think that's changed?
I don't know how to respond to the world situation
Yeah, yeah.
because that,
Yeah, sorry.
that's a
That's
slippery
another
one right
podcast.
there.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Please, let's do that one on another podcast. That would be great.
Yeah, that's
Take
right.
a whole day to talk
Yeah.
about that one.
No worries. No, no. I mean more from the point of view of, AI and the way we communicate and how it seems to be. It's just different. Communication's just different. Yeah.
It is different. AI, I think, is the scary unknown right now. There are some individuals and some organizations that have really embraced it. There are some individuals like myself who haven't embraced it so much. And I know it's coming and will have to, but I don't consider myself an early adopter for a lot of things. And this is one that I'm definitely not an early adopter for.
Right.
And the reason being is I still have to do my research, even if AI tells me something. Because I have to verify that it's true.
Right.
And we've
Right.
seen where AI has pulled out some stuff that's not 100% accurate. So if
Right.
I have to go and do the research anyhow to verify it, why don't I just do the research to do it
Exactly.
and learn it on my own?
Yeah.
I tell people, because I've given some table topics on AI when the question comes up, that my concern is artificial intelligence is going to make us artificially intelligent, where we're going to rely on it so much, our intelligence is going to go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think that's just one of those things. It's
Yeah.
just like Zoom. Eventually, you have to adapt to it.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I
But
mean,
as
I
far
do.
as communication styles go, I think people are starting to listen more and speak less, which I think is a good thing because sometimes we speak too quickly without listening to what's actually going on.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. I mean, that's why I actually think Toastmasters is more important than ever now. For some of us who have younger children, it just seems so hard to communicate with our children because they're so they're so caught up on their phones and communicating that way. So yeah, so I think more than
Well, that's
ever.
the evolution.
Yeah,
The evolution of communication. Think about our parents, maybe my parents, not yours, because I don't know your age nor the age of
Yeah.
your parents.
Yeah.
But let's go back to parents and then go grandparents. Right?
Yeah.
Communication was you would send a letter. You would physically handwrite a letter and mail it. Right? Because there were no cell phones, there was no internet, none of that. Then that next generation took it to, maybe less communication in mail, maybe more formal communication, getting together with people. Then the next iteration of communication became the cell phone. And then the next communication level became Zoom. And as you said, texting is the key to get the message to somebody quicker because you don't have to pick up the phone and talk to them. But that's where the risk comes in because now you're not talking to people. And how do you act when you're in front of somebody? Do you still have that same skill set?
Yeah, and the connection is not there. But that's why we need to join Toastmasters. As far as your personal and your professional life, how has Toastmasters helped you?
In my professional life, it's allowed me to be brought in to help with leadership training, communication development within a company that I used to work for, and the new company that I am working for. That's somewhere where they brought me in specifically for. It's also allowing me to start my own speaking business and leadership training on the side, which has been nice. So I think it gave me the confidence to do that. And in my public life, it's allowed me to become involved with some community organizations and provide them some insights, some skill sets that maybe they didn't have before, and to get involved in some of my local government because they know my leadership style and some of the skills that I bring. One of the funny stories is that I'm a race car driver,
Okay.
and I was actually in the race car, and this is when table topics really proved to be valuable. I was sitting in the car getting ready to go up and perform the run I was on, and a reporter came over and asked me a question and stuck a microphone right in the cage of my car.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm like, okay, I got like 30 seconds till I got to pull up. So table topics played an important part that day
Uh-huh.
in being able to get something across so they could take it. But
Wow. Wow. So are you still a professional race car driver?
yeah, yep.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. And how often do you go out? Go out on?
I the last couple of years, not as much because I've been so busy with some of my Toastmasters travels
Mm-hmm.
that it's put a little bit of taken a little bit of time away. But that's okay. I prefer the opportunity to be able to go out there and help people and deliver a message for them.
Yeah.
But I try to go out, usually half a dozen times, maybe during the course of a year if it allows.
Wow, fantastic. And I think I did hear something where you actually compared, maybe it was your inaugural speech. You actually because you said something about your car behind you. Can you just share a little bit what you were
And so the
saying? Yeah.
team behind you, yeah. So, when I think of racing and what I do, I am the leader. I'm the person in the car, having to guide towards the finish line. Right? Once I launch the car, that's my sole role is to guide towards the finish line.
Hmm.
But I think where the comparison truly comes in is the team that you have behind you,
Yeah.
because I have to have a team that I can trust, that they have done everything that needs to be done to keep me safe.
Hmm.
Right? Because once I'm in it, there's nothing I can do about it. So I have to empower them to do their job, not be second guessing them all the time, not let them run free,
Yeah.
because you don't do that, but you have to be able to do that. I think in Toastmasters, we need to look at it the same way. If we're a leader at any level, club level, district, organizationally, we have to have a strong team behind us because nobody can do this by themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody. There has been no one that I have met that can lead in these levels by themselves without the support of others.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, we talked about the COVID pandemic a little earlier. If I didn't have strong support from either my family or staff at World Headquarters or other leaders, I don't know that I'd have made it through that time
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was just a very dark time when you're trying to
Oh,
make decisions and you don't know whether the decisions are the right decisions or not.
right.
And because there was no manual for it, there was nobody to
Mhm.
say, hey, what did you do during this period? You start doubting yourself. And then you
Mhm.
start mentally going into the wrong spot.
Mhm.
And without that support, it can be very damaging.
Yeah. You visited 149 different clubs. I mean, I think that's more than any other international president. I don't think they could actually say that. You have done something truly amazing. There are so many online clubs that actually started during that time as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
I just want to ask another question is when you were going through this leadership track, how long were you into the journey of this leadership that you thought, hey, I think I want to be president?
I think I made that decision in the final year of my term as international director.
Okay.
And I made that decision because I felt that there was still more that I could offer the organization as an individual, and through some of my experiences. My graduate degree is in international business, so I've had some experience in the international world prior to that. And as I stated earlier, I really truly believe that cultural awareness and cultural understanding needs to be something that all of us take into account. And knowing that organizationally, we need to look at new ways to connect with people. But in order to do that, we need to understand people. I felt that there were things that I could still offer the organization. And that's why I ran for the officer's position to eventually become the international president.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and oh my goodness, and you became the president probably during one of the hardest years ever. And I thought you did such a great too. I mean, I would have quit, but
I will tell you, my predecessor, I couldn't have done it without my predecessor,
yeah,
past international president Deepak Menon.
yeah,
If you ever get a chance to interview him, please do,
okay,
because he was the international president the minute that the pandemic started.
yes, yes. So
So
that yeah,
we were all together in March of 2000 and whenever,
2020 or
2020 when it started,
yeah,
having a board meeting
wow,
when we started seeing the world shut down,
yeah,
and having to make those decisions to pivot with the international convention, and how we were going to handle things at the time.
yeah,
He helped me because he was a very strong predecessor in his way. So you know
yeah.
being there when it started was not an easy thing.
My hat's off to both of you and to you. That world tour that you did, I thought was such a great initiative to visit many clubs as you could. Now, being, leader in Toastmasters, that must have affected the time spent with your family.
It absolutely did. Yeah. I'm married. My wife, Betty Ann, has been a big supporter of my Toastmasters journey. And there were times when she'd be nudging me and telling me I had to get ready for a call or a meeting, but she always understood that what I was doing was important, or I felt it was important, because of that, she understood the necessity for it. The interesting thing is that when my wife started with me in my Toastmasters journey, she was not a Toastmaster.
Mm.
And she has now joined Toastmasters and is actually serving as a district director for our home district. So she's taken her own journey in Toastmasters, and it's been interesting for me to watch her as she's grown as a leader within the organization. You can't do this without support of your family, whether it be at the club level or be at a leadership level, because
Yeah.
it sometimes does take time away, as you probably know when you're doing your podcasts.
Yeah.
It's not just the podcast; it's the time to edit, it's the time to post.
Yeah.
It takes time.
I mean, my husband supports me. He says I can do whatever I want with Toastmasters as long as I support him playing golf. So,
There you go.
there you go. So, yeah.
I don't play golf, but I can appreciate the statement.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. But I want to ask one last question. What advice would you give someone who is considering joining Toastmasters?
First, attend as many clubs as you can to find the one that fits you. If the first one doesn't seem right, don't give up. There are plenty of other clubs out there. And as you had mentioned earlier, Evelyn, sometimes there's not the connection, there's not the mix. And, that happens. But don't give up on it. Don't think that all the clubs are the same way, because they're not. Once you find the club that fits you, your time, your style, join. It's a nice thing that we can join for 6 months at a time, because it doesn't say, well, I've got a 10-year commitment here to see if this really works for me. So join and try it.
Yeah.
But when you join, understand why you've joined. If you joined because you want to develop your communication skills, that you want to be able to get those growth aspects of it, you can't do it while you're sitting there. You have to be willing to get up and give the speech. And I think sometimes I see members join and then they don't feel confident enough to get up and give the speeches. And by the time the 6 months has gone by, they haven't given any, and they feel that they're not making progress. And I think the way the clubs can help with that is, one, for the vice president of education to make sure they meet with the new members when they join and ask them what their goals are. And then once they have those goals, make sure there is a mentor assigned to that new member so that they're not going through this journey alone, especially during those formative times in the organization when you're trying to understand what it is to even write a speech. How do I deliver it? Those type of things. It was said a long time ago, you never get out of, once you get into Toastmasters, you never get out of Toastmasters, and you'll never, ever be the same person you were when you joined. And I truly believe that.
Yeah. Me too. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Richard. Thanks again for joining me on this podcast.
It was my pleasure. Those were some great questions. Very nicely done.
Yeah. Thanks again. Thank you so much for your company. Please tune in next time to the Toastmasters Experience.